So last time we were talking about topological sorts and strongly connected components, right? So before I begin with strongly connected components, I'm going to go over topological sorts once more, and then we are going to move on towards strongly connected components, because we do need topological sort to actually find out our strongly connected components. So I think today morning, Brian Nees gave me a very nice link on Stack Overflow that has a very detailed explanation of an example graph, and where the user actually performs strongly searches for strongly connected components in this particular graph here. So I will be going over this particular example, but before I do that, I'm going to take this example and walk over topological sort stuff, and then we're going to move on towards strongly connected components. And basically this entire lecture will potentially be a dry run of both of these algorithms, so that you guys can have a better understanding of what's going on. So I'll post the Stack Overflow link from Brian, and he also gave me another link, I think from YouTube, yes, that explains topological sorts. So the Stack Overflow link explains strongly connected components, and this YouTube link explains topological sorts. Okay. So you feel free to go over those links, and thanks again, Brian, for these links. They were extremely helpful.
Yeah, the video has like diagrams showing how the algorithm percolates through the graph, which helps a lot. And then it's really detailed on how the algorithm works. And then his code is really easy to follow. Sometimes the pseudocode's a little vague, I think.
Yes, I mean, if we are going over the book from Corman, it might be a bit overwhelming, and there are a lot of proofs there. And if we go over, so you guys also have access to the reference book that I posted, right? There is another book by Dasgupta, and that should also be up there up on Blackboard, right? So either way, whenever you get stuck, just refer to both of those books, and it should be a bit more helpful. And I'm here always, you can always ask me questions and stuff. And that's okay. So now let's start with, so first things first, does everyone sort of remember what topological sort was? So given a directed graph, a topological sort of that graph essentially orders the nodes such that all the parents of a particular node will always be on the left-hand side of that particular order, right? So when we have tie, we know that tie can only have one more child, that is jacket, but tie can have more parents on the left-hand side. So that is what we mean when we say that we are topologically sorting this particular graph. So let's look at this particular example where we had this graph, right? And can everyone see the entirety of the slide?
Yep.
Yep, okay. So both for topological sort and for strongly connected components, the basic algorithm that we want to use is going to be DFS. And we have covered DFS already. So let's just look at this particular graph, right? So we have this graph that has this set of 10 nodes, I believe, all A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, blah, and blah. And we then have this set of pre-visit and post-visit numbers from the DFS search. So let's say that we start from A. We know that we start from A because we have a pre-visit number of 1. And this is the same example as with the Stack Overflow example, but this is for topological sort. So we start off with A, which has a pre-visit number of 1. Then we go to C, that has a pre-visit number of 2. Then D, then F, then J, with a pre-visit number of 5. And once we get to J, C is already visited, right? So what we need to do is now we need to pop out of this particular stack call. And now the post-visit number of J becomes 6 because we are done with J. It comes back to F. F has no other children. So the post-visit number of F becomes 7. And it moves back all the way to C, where D has a post-visit number of 8 and C has a post-visit number of 9. Now the next it comes back to A, but A is not done yet, right? So A has more edges. So the next edge that we need to look at is A to H. So now H has a pre-visit number of 10. Remember that A has still not been post-visited. All of these 4 nodes have been post visited, but A is still, we are still processing A. So once we get to H, then we look at G, then we look at I. And once we are done with I, because there are no other outgoing edges from I that points to a new vertex, we have post visited I. So we have 13 here, then 14, and then a post visit number of 15 for H. And once we have covered this particular 4 nodes and these nodes, these 3 nodes, we are done with all the vertices from A. So we are done with all the child nodes of A. So now we come back to A, and A now gets a post visit number of 16. Now we still have some vertices left. Remember that for a DFS, the time complexity was V plus E, right? We need to cover for every vertex and for every edge that is still not, so for every vertex that is yet not visited, and essentially that it ends up being twice the number of edges per vertex. And so the complexity was V plus E, right? So then we look at, so after A, we have post visit of A as 16. Then it looks at node B that has a pre-visit of 17. Node B does not point to any new vertex. So node B gets a post visit number of 18. Similarly, AE gets a pre-visit and post visit number of 19 and 20. Interesting that this algorithm, if B and E had no children, it would look the same as as here, where they do, because their children have already been visited. Exactly. If B and E did not have any children, it would still look the same. You are correct. The post visit and pre-visit numbers. Yes. Because when we were visiting from starting from A, we had a different set of trees, right? In this particular scenario, I think we have 3 trees, right? 3 DFS trees. One for A, C, D, J, F, H, I, G. That is this entire tree. And 1 tree for B and 1 tree for E. But always remember that this particular exploration is dependent upon the node that you start from. If I started from B, B would have explored G, and then I, then H, and then F, and would have covered this entire subcomponent of this particular graph, right? So it also matters from where we start our search, and we'll come to this when we talk about strongly connected components, but you are right. So if B did not have any children, it would still have the same pre-visit and post-visit numbers. So now, before we talk about solving a topology, so let's just first start with what a topological sort of this graph is. So once we computed this DFS and explored this particular graph using DFS, the topological sort is the simplest thing in terms of the post-visit number. So if we just order our nodes in decreasing post-visit numbers, then that would give you your topological sort of this particular graph. So in this particular scenario, E has the largest post-visit number. So first comes E, then we have B, then we have, let's see, A, then we have H, G, I, and so on, right? So that is how, once we have this, so you can imagine that once we are done visiting a particular node, we insert it into a stack, where the last thing to be inserted would be the node with the highest post-visit number, which is in this case is E. So once we have inserted all of those nodes in the stack, we just pop them out, and we have a set of ordered nodes that give you the topological order of this graph. So let me ask you one question first. Does this graph have a cycle? I mean, first things first, let me ask you, would DFS stop if I run this DFS program on this graph? Yes or no? Would DFS work with cyclic graphs? Yes, right, because we are not looking at a particular node if it is already visited. So there is no point in, so it would not waste any time looking at that node, and so it will not be stuck in any cycle, right? So the next question comes, so this graph does have a cycle, right? So how would, once I sorted it, once I apply DFS, I can sort this graph. But once I sort this graph, how do I detect if a particular graph has a cycle or not? Right? So what would be the criteria of a graph having a cycle? So that would be basically the case where we would have a back edge connecting a child node back to a parent node, right? So we know, and let's look at that particular example again. So we know that all of these edges in this particular example that we looked at earlier, where the professor was basically figuring out how to wear his shirts and pants and whatever. And all of those edges go from a parent to a child. There is no back edge that connects a particular node back to a parent. And we know that it is a parent because it is on the left-hand side of this particular ordering, right? So let's look at this particular graph and let's look at what would go on. So first we would have J. J is being pushed into, so while we are exploring this particular graph, whenever we have a post visit being performed on a node, we insert this in the front of a particular list. So imagine that we have a linked list and we are inserting that particular node at the very front all the time. So first post visit, first node to be completed is the first node that has a post visit number. In this scenario, this is going to be J, that is going to be 6, right? Let me just move this.
Because DFS can't dig any farther, right?
Yes, because DFS can't dig any further because C has already been explored, right? Then we have F, then we have D, where D is connected to F and F is connected to J. And then we have C. But now when we have C, we see that there is a back edge that J is now connected to C. That is what we mean when we talk about give me one second. Okay. That is what we mean when we talk about back edges, right? So back edge in this particular scenario is J has a particular edge that connects to a parent. And how do I know that C is a parent in this scenario? Because when we explored it using DFS, J came first, and then while traversing it back, C has a higher post visit number. So we explored J, or we reached J from C. And that is why we consider C to be a parent. And now we see that there is a back edge back to C from J. And that is how we detect that there is a cycle in this particular graph. Then we come to C, then we come to I, that is the next post visit number in the sequence. Then we come to G, then we come to H. Now we have two trees where HGI is one tree, CDFJ is another tree. We are still exploring using DFS. We are not done yet, but this would be an example where a particular graph gives you two trees. But let's move forward. Now, the moment we have I, we see that there is a back edge from I to H, and there is a forward edge from H to F. So this connects the two trees, but the important part is now we have another back edge that is from I to H. So this shows us that there are two cycles in this particular graph, at least two cycles. Then we have A, that is the last post visit number for this subgraph, and that connects this entire ordering. And then we have B that connects to A and G, and then we have E that connects to B and I, right? Sorry, A and I, right? So the reasoning behind this graph having cycles is that J connects back to C and I connects back to H. And when I say back, I mean that in this topological ordering, which now defines the parent-child relationship, right? On the left-hand side, we have the oldest parent, and on the right-hand side, we have the sink or the youngest child. So if there are any edges that connect back to a particular parent, we have detected a cycle. So that is how we know that there is a cycle using back edges. But how would we approach this particular problem if we were supposed to write a program out of it, right? So let's say that I want to write a program that detects a cycle in a particular graph. So we can first topologically sort this